Hey guys, it's Dustin. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for hanging out. Today we have another match. It's a Goat Control mirror match. On the left, we have Ryan again, and on the right, it's me. We're both playing the exact same Goat Control deck, card for card, including Fusion deck. And we're going to go ahead and get right into this match here. Ryan rolls a 7, and I rolled a 10. I opt to go first. In GOAT format, the turn player who goes first gets to draw a card for their draw phase. It's a good feeling. Sometimes I miss those days. I start off by setting 2 cards and passing my turn. Ryan draws for turn, summons Breaker, which I respond with Bottomless. Ryan sets a card and passes. I go ahead and think about what I want to do. I decide to summon DB-YGO and attack directly for 15, but he responds with Sakuretsu Armor. Then I go ahead and pass my turn. Ryan sets a card to his back row, summons Tribe Infecting Virus, and declares an attack for 16. I'll take that direct. I have Scapegoat set, but I don't want to waste it because he can just clear all of them into main phase 2. I go ahead and set a card in my back row and pass. Ryan draws for turn and swings for another 1600. Main phase 2, he activates the Liquid Duo, which discards 2 random cards from my hand. He gets to pick one at random, and I get to pick the other one not at random. He hits my Nobleman Crossout, and I discard Magician of Faith. He passes back to me. I'm not sitting in a great position right now. Tribe Infecting Virus is putting in a lot of work right now. I just pass back to Ryan. Attacks for another 16. This time I decide to try to Book of Moon on the attack. I'm not trying to take too many more of those 16s. He passes back to me. I think for a second. I activate Premature Burial to get back DD Warrior Lady, which is met by his Bottomless Trap Hole. Puts me back in a position where Tribe Infecting Virus is just going to keep putting in work. So I set Mirror Force, and he happens to have Heavy Storm. I'm forced to chain it. I don't have a choice here, even though I know he's going to flip summon Tribe and discard a card to destroy all my goats. And that's what he does. Not only does he do that, but it's discarding Sinister Serpent, which I'm not too excited about. But what can I do? I'm going to take another 16 to the face. I'm down to 2400 at this point. It's not looking great. I set 2 to my back row and pass. Stand by face, he gets Sinister Serpent back to his hand. And Ryan gets in there for another 1600. Then he sets a monster and passes back to me. Then I set a monster, pass. And he has no one to cross out for my monster, which is a magical merchant. And he has to get rid of his copy of magical merchant. But I have an MST and a dust tornado set, so it really doesn't matter. As soon as he attacks, the game's over. But I'm not scooping, just in case he decides to do something crazy. But he declares battle phase and attacks, and that's it. I show him what I have. I lost game 1, so I decided to go first for game 2. Ryan's never actually beaten me in a game of Go Control before, so congratulations to him. But let's see if he can win the match. I draw for turn. I go ahead and set a monster and a spell or trap and pass to him. He draws for turn. Starts off with a nobleman to cross out in his monster card zone. Hits my DD Warrior Lady and then summons Sengen. I joked with him that he should have just summoned it and attacked. I would have been okay with that. But I'll take the 1000. And he'll set a card to his back row and pass. Set a card to my back. Pass back to Ryan. And he's just going to go with the Sengen beatdown. Main phase 2, he summons Breaker. Which I think for a minute. Removes counter. Hits my scapegoat, which I chain. That was a good hit. Then he passes back to me. I summon Tsukiyomi. Try to flip down his breaker. When I declare an attack on the breaker, he goes for Sakuretsu armor. Think about it for a second, but I decide to Book of Moon my Tsukiyomi to save it. I'm really not sitting that well right now. I haven't flipped up the Book of Moon yet, but I'm going to. Then I set a card to the back row and pass. And he flip summons the breaker. Declares an attack on my goat with Sengen. Which is fine. Then he attacks my Tsukiyomi with the breaker, which I flip down the breaker again. And he sets a monster and passes. I draw for turn. Summon Blade Knight. Hit over the breaker. Then I pass back to him. He sets a card to the back row. Sets a second one. Summons his own Blade Knight. And he flip summons Morphing Jar. I actually thought he was just going to attack with the Blade Knight. But no. He wanted some cards. He discarded Sinister Serpent. Out of my hand, he hit Book of Moon, Call upon it. No, not Call upon it. Dust Tornado. And Snatch Steal. Then he follows that up with a Graceful Charity. It's the gift that keeps on giving. He ends up discarding Tsukiyomi. and Magical Merchant. Then he activates Premature Burial. And he targets Magical Merchant. And this is his inexperience of playing goats. He hasn't played goats very much, so sometimes he forgets what cards do. So I let him take it back because I'm a nice guy like that. And I didn't know this at the time, but it looks like he was about to go for Tsukiyomi, which I would have had to have corrected him on at that point. But he gets Breaker. Then he activates Brain Control to target my Blade Knight. I wasn't sure what he was going for right here. Again, I call this a lack of experience playing Go Control. But even in Go Control or in regular Yu-Gi-Oh, I still wouldn't overextend like this. Because he definitely runs into Mirror Force. Sure, one of those is mine, and one of them is a Sengen, which will float. But that's still a massive Mirror Force. And I didn't realize, neither of us caught this, but he forgot to use Sengen's effect after that Mirror Force. Then he activates the Linguin Duo. And he hit BLS out of my hand. I wasn't too thrilled about that. But in hindsight, I'm actually glad he didn't hit the Graceful Charity in my hand. I think that would have been worse. At least I had Sinister with it. Then he passes back to me. Standby phase, I grab Sinister Serpent back to my hand. Activate Graceful Charity to draw 3 cards. I know I'm going to discard the Sinister Serpent. I usually like to think about which one I'm going to discard first before the Sinister Serpent, because that's the only one that really matters. I go ahead and discard Jinzo with the Sinister. Then I set a monster and a spell or trap and pass. Ryan summons DD Warrior Lady. He tries to get Sinister Serpent back. Now, if he hadn't already summoned, I wouldn't have been hard about it. But it's a really important card, and I don't feel like letting him take it back. Can't be nice every time. Sorry, buddy. I still love you, though. He declares an attack with the DD Warrior Lady and activate Ring of Destruction. He thinks for a second. Decides to let it go. We both take 15. The only reason I didn't want him to attack my face down monster is because it's Magician of Faith and I have Tsukiyomi in my hand to keep abusing Graceful Charity. Standby phase, I grab Sinister. Then flip summon the Magician of Faith to get back Graceful Charity. Then I activate it to draw 3 more cards. I discard Scapegoat and Sinister. Then I followed up with Pot of Greed. I really don't want to run into Torrential Tribute at this point, but I'm so far ahead in card advantage, I don't think it really matters. But I decide to be safe and Premature Burial on Jinzo, to which he responds with Call of the Haunted. To get back his DD Warrior Lady. I really want to keep the Jinzo around. So after thinking about it for a minute, I Delinquent Duo first. Get rid of a Scapegoat and a Metamorphosis out of his hand. Still thinking. I know I decide to tribute the Magician of Faith for Air Knight Parshath, but for some reason I'm taking forever to think about this play. Again, I want to keep the Jinzo around in case that set card is a Mirror Force or a Torrential. So I just attack with the DD or the Air Knight Parshath to draw a card, and he's going to banish both monsters. And then he's going to take 24 with the Jinzo. And he shows me the Mirror Force. He's not dead at this point, but he scoops anyway because he knows he's not going to come back from this. So that's the end of game 2. We're going to go into game 3. Game 3, Ryan's going to opt to go first. So we both draw our opening hands. Ryan draws for turn. He summons Blade Knight. Sets a card to the back row, passes to me. This part gets a little awkward. I summon Breaker, and my intent here is going to be to add the counter and attack over Blade Knight and then pop in main phase 2. But again, his inexperience with Go Control, he didn't realize what I was going to do. He kind of jumped the gun, assuming that I was going to break it. But I decided, after talking about it for a sec, I decided to let the Breaker go to the graveyard as if I did attack, because that's what I was truly intending to do anyway. So I set a card to the back row and pass. Top decks Graceful Charity for the turn and plays it to draw 3 cards. Discards Tribe and Air Knight Parshath. He summons Breaker, the Magical Warrior, to add a counter. He removes the counter to target my back row, which is Mirror Force. So this is going to sting a little bit. He declares an attack with both for a total of 3,200. Then he sets a card to the back row and passes. It was a little bit of a rough start. but I decide to fire off the Heavy Storm. I go ahead and set a monster and activate Metamorphosis to bring out Thazanize Restrict. After thinking about this, I decide to take his Blade Knight and crash into the Breaker. Because if he top decks Tsukiyomi, I'm definitely going to lose. He shows me that he has the Tsukiyomi, which, if he were to summon it, he would have to flip it face down. He didn't realize that. Again, hasn't played much Go Control. He plays Premature Burial, get back the Air Knight Parshath. He attacks for 1900 and draws a card. Main phase 2 sets a card to the back row, passes back to me. And I get back Sinister in the standby phase. I set a monster. Pass back. Now, I'm in a position to lose right now, but due to lack of experience with Go Control, he makes a total misplay. He forgets what Jinzo does, and he tries to summon the Jinzo and call back the Air Knight. He should have just attacked with the Air Knight and then called the Haunted something else in the battle phase and attacked for game. He sees me get back Heavy Storm with Magician of Faith, but still decides to set a face down card. I'm not sure why he did that. And it wasn't even something that he was going to chain to it. So that was just a free hit for me. And I'm able to capitalize on the mistake by summoning BLS, attacking over the Jinzo, and then attacking directly for a total of 3600 to put him down to 3600. Then I set a face down and pass. I'm not really happy to see a Snatch Steal right now, especially since he has a Tsukiyomi in hand. These are going to be a series of awkward plays due to his inexperience of playing Go Control. He summons the Tsukiyomi to flip the BLS face down. So he wasn't afraid of Torrential. But he's afraid of Mirror Force, which is already in my graveyard. I didn't understand this. He may have been afraid of Sakuretsu armor. But he attacks me with Tsukiyomi and I take it to put me down to 1800. Tsukiyomi goes back to his hand at the end of the turn and I draw. Unfortunately, I draw nothing that can help me in that situation, so I set a monster and pass. And he flips summons BLS and uses effect to banish my Tsukiyomi. He tries to attack with it, not realizing that he can't attack the same turn he used the banish effect. So he just passes. Again, not a strong enough draw, so I set a monster and pass. He uses the effect to banish it. It's Magical Merchant. Sets a back row and passes. Then I set a back row and pass. He activates Heavy Storm, and I have Scapegoat. It was a saving grace. For some reason, he had set 2 scapegoats and lost them both to Heavy Storm because he thought he was going to be able to push for game. I did have the Torrential, but now he's stuck in a position where he doesn't win the game right now. He's able to attack 2 of my goats and pass back. I top deck Nobleman cross out, which I was more than happy to see. Summon the Tsukiyomi, flip it down, cross it out, attack for 11, put him down to 25. Then I pass with just a couple goats. He ends up setting a monster and ending his turn after setting a back row. I set a card and pass. He activates Linkwood Duo to get rid of the Tsukiyomi and the Sinister Serpent out of my hand. Puts him down to 15. He passes back, I draw, get back Sinister in the standby phase. Set a card and pass. He passes back. Kind of a slow rolling game right now. And then I just set a monster and pass. I believe it was a Magician of Faith. He takes a little bit of time to think about this. We're both pretty low in life and both in awkward hands. He decides to bring control to take control of one of my goats. Which is fine. And he flips up Metamorphosis to tribute the goat to grab Thousand Eyes Restrict. Targets my face down. Tries to attack my goat, but it doesn't do anything. Since they're both 0/0. It's a good thing I didn't have Sakuretsu. That would have been silly. He passes back to me after setting a back row. And I rip Pot of Greed off the top. Draw a couple cards. And I set a card to the back row. Decide to set a monster and pass. He graves Pot of Greed off the top as well to draw a couple cards. Sets a monster. Activates Nobleman on my Sinister Serpent. Now, right here, we didn't catch this at the time, which is crazy. I usually am one to catch this. But he ends up flip summoning Tsukiyomi to flip down Thousand Eyes Restrict. Thousand Eyes Restrict does not allow for battle position changes of other monsters, so he was not supposed to be able to do that. Neither of us caught it at the time. He attacks into Sakuretsu. tries to chain Bokamoon to save the Tsukiyomi, and I chain Ring to destroy the Tsukiyomi to end the game. Which none of this should have happened, but it did, and we didn't catch it. So this is where the game ends. We both show each other that we both had Sangan in our hands. It's probably the best Go control match that Ryan and I have ever had. Put up quite a fight. We were both pretty low in life. It was a good time. Thanks for the games, Ryan. And this will be the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed watching, and we will see you next time.